Hey there, this is Atul from team K21 Academy, and in this video, we're going to talk about how to create and connect a Linux virtual machine. And in this video, we're going to look at Ubuntu type virtual machine or Linux operating system, but you can use other flavors of operating system as well on that virtual machine. And we're going to do it on Azure Cloud. So first, as we always follow, I'm going to tell you a little bit background and what all things we are going to cover in this video. And then I'll actually do it by going to the Azure portal and performing it. So first and foremost, what is a virtual machine? Now, virtual machine, if you are a complete beginner, have no idea about what a virtual machine is, think of it as a laptop or a machine on which you can create resources. You can do some work, like work might be deploying an application, deploying a database, or running anything that needs processor, memory, or CPU and memory and storage. So this is the diagram which I'll explain you in a minute. This is what we're going to build. There are different type of virtual machine you can do. You can do a Windows virtual machine and you can do Linux virtual machine. In this video, I'm going to talk about Linux virtual machine, but in the program where you're watching this, there'll be another video about how to create a Windows virtual machine and then connect to Windows virtual machine using RDP or remote desktop, but that's a separate video. Now, also when we are creating the Linux virtual machine, I'm going to show you different flavors of for example, Red Hat or other flavors, but we are using Ubuntu because later I'm going to use this Ubuntu for my other training like Kubernetes or Docker or other trainings as well. So just to tell, and at that point I'll show you how to change that flavor or operating system version. Now, as always in our documentation, I will begin with introduction. And then chapter 2 will be about documentation, saying that what all documents we have referred. And so in case if you want to go deeper into that, you can refer to the documentation. Right now it's only one link, but you might see more as more and more guys have any questions that we might put into the documentation section. Then chapter 3 is going to be prerequisite, what all things you need in order to, or what you should already have in order to complete this lab. So you should already have a free trial account or a paid account. Whatever you do, you should have a Azure portal on which you can practice. And this is, we have already covered a guide and a video where we showed you how to create a step-by-step free trial account. And if you're part of our Azure program, then we also give you Azure Pass to practice the free credit as well. So we've also told you how to apply that credit because I'm using that credit subscription, which is a free Azure free pass to practice. So you should already have that done already. And if not, maybe watch that video. Once you've gone through this video, watch that video, create an account, and then start working on this lab, which is creating a virtual machine. So that's chapter number 2. Then we're going to look at how to create an actual virtual machine. There are different ways to create that. You can use command line interface. You can use portal. That's what we are going to use in this. You can also use PowerShell. You can also use the Terraform or any automation. You can also use ARM templates and so on. But here we'll keep it simple and use graphical user interface, which is Azure portal. Then we'll connect, or we'll see how to connect to Ubuntu machine. Now there are two ways to connect depending on what you've configured. So by default, in pretty much all the cloud providers, you have connectivity using SSH keys, and when we come to that point, I'll explain you. But in Azure it gives you an option of both SSH keys and password. So when we configure, at the time you say, what do you want to configure? Do you want to configure password, or you can want to configure SSH keys? Now, to keep things simple, we are going to use password, but you can also configure SSH keys. And if you use SSH keys, we'll tell you how to connect using SSH keys as well. Once that's done, we'll tell you how to stop. Once you have connected, then what I want you to do is take a screenshot and put it in a WhatsApp group that you have completed or you have done this lab. That will tell me that, hey, you're making progress, and also inspire others to perform that lab. Once that's done, you can decide to either stop this machine or terminate this machine. If you're planning to use this machine for some other task, like for example, I said for Kubernetes and so on, or Docker and so on, then you might stop it and then you start it when you need it. Now, if you're under a free trial account, when you stop the machine, you don't get charged for a compute, or we call CPU and memory. but you still get charged for data, but that data charge is very, very minimal, very cheap. And if you're a trial account, you'll hardly notice any charge because you're just attaching probably 8-10 gig of disk space on here. So to give a diagram here, this is a virtual machine. That virtual machine will have some attached storage. We'll see when I show you on the console, that time I'm going to show you how that virtual machine console that attachment look like, or storage we are going to do. So when you shut down, you don't get charged for CPU and memory, but you get charged for the storage which is attached to this virtual machine, but it's very minimal, so it's okay for you. You can keep it down. Now, second is we also look at if you forgot your password, how do you reset the password of this machine? And then in case when we are defining creating this virtual machine, in order for to access this over the internet, first thing is it should have a public IP, which I'll show you how to do that. But the port number on which my SSH license or my virtual machine license, which is like on Linux, it's 22. It's for Windows, it's 3389, which is RDP protocol. So I need to open that port 22 in Linux case here. So make sure that that port number 22 is open, and that is opened using something called as network security group NSG. And if you're part of Azure administration or Azure solution architect, we will cover that in detail about what this NSG is, but we need to open that port. For some reason, if you forgot to open the port, we'll show you how you can open the port later as well through NSG. And then also what happens when you assign a public IP, the public IP that gets assigned to this virtual machine is ephemeral, which means when you restart the machine, the IP address will change. Public IP address will change. The private IP will stay static. Public IP is the one which you'll be connecting over the internet. So that might change, or that will change. So if you want to retain that public IP, then you can reserve an IP. And we don't recommend it because every time you connect or restart, you identify the new IP and connect using that new IP. But if you want to reserve, you can reserve that IP or remove that reserve IP. Yeah. And then finally, we'll also look at how do you track your credit balance, how much money is left on that. But again, there is a separate video for that on balance and then the billing, etc. And then final chapter is about troubleshooting section, where we talk about how to troubleshoot or what are the common issues you might encounter, especially when you're connecting to this machine. So that's what we're going to look into this particular video. So let me go and first show you straight onto the portal what we're going to do. So we are going to go onto the Azure portal and search for virtual machine. And then we will select an option on here if you see create. And then there are different type of virtual machines. Again, you can read out if you want to go deeper, but some of these are self-explanatory, and I'll explain you when I go to the console some of these explanatory, but you can read more. There'll be associated documentation available for you for what are the different type of virtual machines that you have. Then we'll provide all the necessary details. And then this is where you will have some tabs on in terms of this is the default configuration for virtual machine. And then I'll explain you each of these options, what these options are when we do. And once you say create, it will validate the configuration, and configuration is successful, then you will have to click one more time, say yes, create. And once it's created, within probably 4 or 5 minutes, we'll have the machine ready. We'll check the public IP, and then finally we'll connect to this public IP. Now, one more thing I wanted to tell you about from this diagram, which will help you to understand what we are actually doing. So this is my in my Azure portal, there's something called a resource group. And again, we've covered this in theory, but if you have not looked at, we'll explain that. Resource group is nothing but collection of all your resources, which maybe virtual machine is a resource, IP is a resource, network is a resource, disk is a resource. So collection of all this together into a resource group. On resource group, you can apply policies like who can access this, who can create, modify resources within that resource group, and so on. So either you can create it in an existing resource group you already have, or if you don't have a resource group, you can create a new resource group and create under that. Ideally, what we recommend is to put every resource you create in a resource group, and then once you delete the resource group, all the resources within that resource group can be deleted immediately or will automatically be deleted. So that's a good in terms of if you have a project, you put them into resource group, and then so that those resources can be deleted and removed as you go. And then when you're connecting, you can either connect through public IP, or you can also connect using the public DNS name, which is a URL. You can use that URL or a name which is resolved by the Azure portal. We'll show you that as well. So let's first go and look at. So if you notice here, I'm in a Azure portal. From here, you can go to click on this virtual machine, or you can go to here and type and say virtual machine and click on this button, which is, or this option, which is virtual machines. And from here, it will list down any virtual machines you have. And if you've created a virtual machine in past, and if you don't see, it could be some one of these filters. So here, if you notice, my subscription is I'm looking in the subscription, which is Azure Pass. You might have multiple subscriptions. So in this case, and if you're doing it in a free trial account, you might have a different subscription equals some different values. So you don't need to worry about here. You click on create here. This is where, or if you click on this is drop down, sorry, you have different type of options. This is what we need to create Azure Virtual Machine. Preset configurations, as name suggests, you have you're doing or creating a virtual machine with predefined configurations. Azure Arc, like probably I'll leave it for now, maybe worth reading for you what is Azure Arc means, but this is of a special type of virtual machine for that you're creating in the context of Azure Arc. This is where you can deploy VMware solution. And if you have VMware solution deployed in Microsoft Azure, and this is where you're creating a machine, but hosted on Azure, but under a VMware solution. So this is what we need to select, which is Azure Virtual Machine, and click on this. So first is you need to select the right subscription. And as I said earlier, in your case, it might be only one subscription. In my case, I already had one subscription of Azure Pass, which was disabled. And this is the other subscription, which is now currently valid. I have applied 2 subscriptions on this account. What is a subscription? And if you're part of our Azure training, if you're watching this as a part of Azure administration, Azure solution architect, then you probably might be getting Azure Pass, which you will be applying. But first you would have exposed or you have explored the free option. And once that's done, you might be getting Azure Pass. So there'll be a separate module or separate lesson on how to apply this Azure Pass in your account. So I'm selecting this Azure Pass. Now this is a resource group, as I said. It's nothing but a collection of resources, and you can read all the documentation here parallelly. So if you look, what this resource group is nothing but a collection of resources, which could be your databases, virtual machine, networking, storage, etc., which share the same life cycle, permissions, and policies. So I'm going to create a new resource group just to show you, and I'll say maybe K21 Academy dash. I'm creating a virtual machine. You can do it if you're using it for Kubernetes. You might do Kubernetes or Docker or etc., whatever, something that you can remember. And when we are going to terminate the resources within this, we are going to terminate this whole resource group itself here. So we'll create OK. Now this is where name of the virtual machine. So I'll say K21 Academy VM01, or maybe I'll say that I'll put a user called or maybe machine called Ubuntu VM01. It's better because I'm selecting a Ubuntu type VM. Now this is where in which region. Region is nothing but a geographical location in which this machine will be created. It will be US East, US West, US Central, UK, Europe. All these are regions. So I'm leave it to default, whatever is that US Central. You might want to go for a specific region. Now, again, how to select which region, that's something we'll cover in theory part. So I'll leave it for now. Use the default region, whatever you see here. Now, sometime the type of machine that you want to create may not be available in a specific region. So in that scenario, you probably might want to go for US East or US South and so on. So maybe you might go on other like these other US regions. For now, leave it to default. Now, availability zone is nothing but think of it as a data center. You can have multiple availability zone or single availability zone or availability set. So there is a concept of scale set, there's a concept of availability set, availability zone. So we'll leave it to for now select availability zone. What is a virtual machine scale set or availability set? As we move forward in the program, we'll cover these concepts, what these advanced topics or what these means. But if you want to read more about, you can learn more about these options from here. So I'll leave it that it's within availability zone, and I'm selecting that. You can select maybe in multiple zones as well. So if I select 2 zones, I'll be creating 2 virtual machines. If I'm selecting 3 zones, I'll be getting 3 virtual machines, but then I'm also be paying for 3 machines. So I just want a single zone because it's just for testing purpose, and I've just created 1 virtual machine. That means now this is where you select security type, and you can have some additional hardened machine. Operating system will be a little bit more secure, but and like your disk, etc. Sorry, your virtual machine, but we'll leave it to standard. You can also have trusted launch virtual machine, which means it will have a predefined more secure configurations for here. So we'll leave it to standard default for now. Now, this is where I was talking about the type of different type of operating system. So image is nothing but what type of operating system you want to configure on this virtual machine. So you can configure Windows, you can do Ubuntu, you can also drop down and say SUSE, Red Hat Linux, Oracle Linux, Debian, and so on. So we'll leave it to Ubuntu server 20.04 LTS generation 2 of operating system. Now this is because I'm going to use this machine for in future for Docker and Kubernetes installation. So and that basically works very well with Ubuntu, or one of the most common operating systems used. And for master node anyway, you need Linux or Unix. That's why I'm going to use it on Ubuntu server. Now this is where what is the architecture? Is it you're using x86 or ARM based 64-bit ARM64 or x46? So I'll leave it to x64 type processor here. Now, spot discount is basically run with Azure spot discount. So this is if you select this, you might get a little bit cheaper, but sometime Azure might take away your machine depending on the workload requirement. So leave it unchecked here. Now this is where you'll be typing what type of size or shape you want. And again, this will basically dictate how many CPUs and how many disk storage you want to select. Now for Docker and for Kubernetes, we want to have at least 2 vCPUs here. So we'll select the 2 vCPUs. Now if you see here, it's grayed out and I don't see the 2 vCPUs here. So what I'm going to do is, it says this size is currently unavailable in central US for the subscription. So which means, as I was telling earlier, I wanted a 2 vCPUs, but it's not available in this region. So I'm going to go up and change my region to wherever it is available. So I'll go up and see if it's available in US East maybe. So I'll select US East and then come here and now see, if you see now I have 2 vCPUs. Again, this is important if you're doing it for Docker or Kubernetes, but at least it needs 2 vCPUs. And 8 gig of memory, we have selected this shape size. Now this is what I was talking about, that you can either use SSH keys or password. And SSH key is nothing but a public and private key pair, where public key is stored on this machine, whereas private key you download and keep it with you safely. So think of it like a password, but it's a more secure password. Now, for now, I'm going to use password because it's simple and easy. You can do SSH. If you're familiar with SSH, you can create SSH keys or use existing SSH keys as well. But I'm going to use for password. And for easy to remember, I'm going to use the name as operating system user. You can use any name. I'm going to use Ubuntu as my username, and I'll be using the password. So password something that you can remember. Keep that password. That's something you can remember. So it says password don't match. So maybe I might have done something. Let me try password again. Now this is us talking about earlier in the diagram when I said the port number 22 should be allowed, which is 22 is for SSH. And so when we're connecting over this NSG, which you see here, port number 22 should be allowed for it to connect. So this is where I'm saying allowed selected port 22. Now you might want to, let's suppose you're installing some like a web server which is listening on port number 80 or port number 443, then you might want to add those ports as well. So for now, you can leave it with just 22, but later I might use it for deploying a web server or on port number 80 or 443. So I'll select these 3 as well. all these three. Later, if you for some reason if you forgot, you can always go and update the NSG to allow these ports as well. So I want to allow ports. Now this is where you see just this particular normal configuration. Now I have other options you can choose, or you can leave those other options default values. So you can select disk, how much disk you're going to attach. So if I look at the diagram, this is my disk, which has managed disk, or these disks which I was talking about, operating system and data and so on. And then networking. Networking is basically this network, this machine will be created in a network we call VNet, virtual network, which is further broken down to small subnets. Again, in our Azure administration, as a solution architect, we are going to go and explain or go deeper into what is a virtual network, VNet, subnet, etc. So that will be coming, or you might have already learned that, but that's stay tuned for that. So brief overview, we are going to create, this machine will need an IP. That IP will come from a subnet. That subnet is part of that virtual network that you see, and that is what we are going to see networking here. Management related, what all management, I'll show you some other things as well. So let's first look at disk. So by default, it's selecting a operating system disk type, which is my premium solid state disk, which is locally redundant storage within that particular, within this particular zone which we saw. We're saying delete with VM. So as VM gets deleted, my underlying storage, this disk will also get deleted. The disk will be, the data on the disk will be stored securely, encrypted using the key which is managed by Microsoft Azure. You can use also a customer managed key, which is to encrypt and decrypt the data on the storage. You're using a Azure managed key or customer managed key. So we're using Azure managed key. And then how much disk space, additional disk space you want to attach, you can attach it here. You can add some more additional attached disks. We are not going to do it right now. We might do it in future. Later in administration program, as your administration AZ104, we are going to add some more, show you how to add disk of different type of disks that are available. Now this is us talking about networking. So what it's doing is it's creating a virtual network. That network is using a subnet of 10.0.0.0 cider 24, and this 24 represents that hey, first three octet 1, 2, 3, these three will be staying static, and this subnet, this number will change, the fourth one, which is octet 8, 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth one will be changing, which means within this subnet you can have IPs from 10.0.0.0.0 till 10.0.0.0.254. Again, we'll discuss these in networking concept. I'm assigning a new public IP for this because if you notice my machine, in order for me to access it over the internet, this machine should be, this should have a public IP. So I'm assigning a public IP for here. Now, the network security group, again, there are different type, means there's no network security group, which means I'm opening up this pretty open and drill all allow everything connectivity, but I want to have a security group of type basic. There's advanced, we'll cover that separately later. Now, public inbound port, which means the following ports are allowed from public. And there are other things as well. I'll leave it to the default for now on these options. This is where you configure management. How do you want to manage this machine? Do you want to enable identity? You want to integrate with Azure Active Directory? Do you want to do auto shutdown or backup, enable backup, etc.? And how does your operating system gets updated? We'll leave it to default, and we'll go and cover these when we go to the VM administration later. We'll cover these separately in part of Azure administration. Then how do you monitor? If you want to configure monitoring on this, and these are some advanced options available for this. What are some advanced topics or things that you can do? You can put some additional configurations once the machine is created. You want to do some additional setup. And then tags is to represent a key value pair, which means you can say this instance, you can create a tag which says environment and say production, or project and project name, or these can be used later for billing or identifying or setting some properties around this machine. So once this is, I've given basics, I'll leave all the default ones. I want, it's automatically creating me a network. It's attaching the disk operating system. And once this is done, I'll simply say review and create. And now it's validating the configuration to say, is everything looks okay? So it's given me a warning saying that, first of all, it says that it's basically costing me 6 rupees, Indian rupees, which means I think couple of cents per hour. and it's checking some other properties as well. I think it highlighted that saying that my port 22 is open over the public. So let it come back. And if you want to see other prices, which means you can look at the pricing calculator as well. Now, this is the configuration it's telling me. And then if you see validation passed, it has not yet created. It's just my validation, all the configuration which I want to do that validation. Now click on create. And it will take good few minutes to create this machine. So let it create, and while we wait, and I'll come back once this machine is created. It should take no more than 5 minutes or so. Once it goes, it's saying, if you notice here, it's saying submitting for deployment, and you will have a notification here once this machine is being created. So it'll take me to the, so if you see, it's telling me what all things it's going to create. So it has created a network. It has also created an energy. It has also created a public IP that I'll be assigned on this, and here it will see all the things that it has done. This notification bar, it's showing me that deployment is in process. And if you notice now, I think within few minutes it said the deployment to the resource group, this is successful. Go to the resource. I can go to the resource, which means I can go to the machine. Or you can click on here under virtual machine or search again, and now your virtual machine should be listed for you. So that completes my successful creation of machine. Now let's look and create, or basically go and connect this machine. And I have different options, which I'll explain you in a minute. So this is my Ubuntu machine that I've created just now. As you see now, it's D2S V3. Basically the size, which means it's a 2 vCPUs. Click on this machine here. Now it's giving me an option to connect. Now I can connect using SSH. RDP is mainly for Windows, but there's another concept called Bastion, which we'll cover later in a Bastion module, like when we do the security module. Bastion is another way to connect to this machine where I don't expose this machine on public IP. I expose through a Bastion, so there'll be some other service which is listening in between. So there'll be some Bastion here. Me over the secure on HTTPS port, which is on port number 443, connect to the Bastion service, and then Bastion service will then in turn connect to this machine here, which will look at that later. So I want to connect in using SSH, and I need my public IP. So this is my public IP. This is what I'll be connecting. So from here, you get the public IP. So copy it, the public IP, and now you should already have a PuTTY downloaded. Now, there should be a separate video on how to install a PuTTY. If you are not familiar, it's very simple, straightforward process. Just Google and say PuTTY, and then download that PuTTY, whatever first option you get from here, and then install that PuTTY. So it's not here. I think not this one. Yeah, this 𝗙𝗥𝗘𝗘, 𝗙𝗟𝗔𝗦𝗙𝗘. This is where you will download the PuTTY from. And if you scroll down somewhere, download it here, 0.78 version when I'm recording this. Now I already have a PuTTY, so let's see. So this is where I'll save the IP address, and I'll probably maybe say that Azure VM or Ubuntu VM, and put it save, so that in future I don't need to remember IP. If my machine restarts and the IP change, then I'll have to change the IP. Now, if I would have used SSH, I should have gone to SSH here under auth. I would have used my private key or searched for my private key, because that's how we connect. But in my case, I'm using, I said I'll use password. So I'll simply say open here, and it should prompt me for first time. It's saying host key is not in my registry. So I'll say accept it. And that's what, now this is where I'll be using my username, which is Ubuntu. And this is the user which you configured earlier. Now, if you want to see what user you, and if you forgot what user you created, and this is where you come down, and there'll be an option here on say change password. So let's see on the documentation here how to change password, just in case. We are not going to change it right now, but just to show you in case you change the password. So password screen have now gone under help. So if you go under help, there's an option called reset password. And this is where you will tell, or you will be saying the value must not be empty. So what is the username and password for that? And if you want to see the username, let's see if this is where you'll use username and password for this. So I already have the username, which is I think it's timed out. Let me refresh, restart the session, and I need to use Ubuntu, and I'm going to type my password. Now, if you notice, I've logged into this machine and I can type hostname. And if you want to switch to root user, sometime you have to do operations in as a root user. I'll simply say sudo space su and then minus, and I'm now under root user. So this is how successfully you've created a Linux machine and you've connected to this machine. Now, if you have come so far, take a screenshot of this. Also take a screenshot of this machine or showing here virtual machines, and take a screenshot of that and put it in a WhatsApp group so I know that you have done it. It'll also um, inspire others to do this lab, and that's quite handy, and it will make you as well accountable here. Now, once this is done, you are pretty much fine. Now, if you want to stop it, then what you can do is you can quickly go and select the Ubuntu machine here. And then in order for you to stop it, you simply say stop, and then it'll stop the service. If you want to then later restart, you can restart. So I'll say stop and say yes. We'll note if you see now IP is 164.40.76.104 and 164 says yes, stop. And your machine, it's disconnected now because I've stopped the machine. I've restarted the session. The machine will not, it'll not, and give it few minutes, the machine will not come up, or the IP address, public IP address will go away here. Again, the same thing. It's telling me that stopping the virtual machine. Once stopped, it'll be stopped completely. Now, once it's stopped, I can come back here and then select an option, and the start button will be enabled and I can start. So let me refresh here. It's not fully stopped, it's still stopping the virtual machine. The start button is already now enabled. Now it says successfully stop the virtual machine. And now I can go and let me refresh and see. So it has not released the IP address. So basically the IP address is completely attached. So I might have used a static IP for this or reserved IP. So I'll simply say start and I'll start the machine. Now, if I want to delete this machine, then I simply say and delete this machine. If you want to delete all the resources, like I created a network, etc., which I should be doing, which I'll tell you. But for now, if you're using it for Docker or Kubernetes, keep it down. And then later you go to Docker machine installation and use that Docker for Docker, and similarly for Kubernetes. But if you're just trying out for this and you are done with this machine, or you want to completely remove everything, just go to search for resource group and delete this resource group, and it'll remove all the resources within that. So I've selected resource group. And this is where I have a resource group which I created, K21 So I'll select this, which is, sorry, click on this, and then there should be an option to delete this. So I'll say delete resource group, click here, and you have to type the name of the resource group, which is K21 Academy-VM, and click on delete. And once this deletion completes, you will see your virtual machine will also be gone. So we'll just simply go to virtual machine, and it'll gone shortly. Also, I should have showed you the VNet which has created virtual network. Now, this is the VNet it has created. It'll also go away shortly here once my resource group gets deleted. So inside that, it'll go and delete all these resources. Now, while we are deleting this few troubleshooting section, it's important for you that if for some reason you are unable to connect from this to this port 22, there could be multiple reasons. And one of them reason is that your machine is not up and running. Second could be that your if machine is up, you may not be using the right public IP. So you can check the public IP, which are the way I've showed you. Third reason could be if machine is up, public IP is enabled, you're using the right public IP, then the port number 22 may not be enabled. Now, if you go to the network, again, I should have showed you before deleting, but again, the steps are in this video. You go to the VNet, inside that there'll be a network interface, or there'll be a NSG, network security group. Inside that there'll be inbound port number 22 enabled, 822 should be enabled. Another might be that one common thing is if you're using an office laptop, or if you have a firewall on your personal laptop which doesn't allow you to go out port number 22 because lot of these only allow office laptops or secure laptops allow only port number 80 or 443, which is my HTTPS ports or HTTPS port. In that 22 may not be allowed outgoing. So keep an eye. If that doesn't work for you, if you've tried and tested everything, but it works for it doesn't work for you, ask a colleague of yours or pick another laptop which has public IP, which has, not restricted. Then see if you can connect. That means issues with your laptop. There might be some other errors. You might get some like SSH permission denied with keys. If you're using keys, you might get with permission errors, etc. So those things are recorded here in this guide. All those will be reported under this. So, well, let's go and now look and see whether it's being deleted. Yes, it says it's still deleting the resources. So let me wait here, refresh. Yeah, it's the virtual machine, network is gone, and we'll see the virtual machines. And if you see, virtual machine is also gone now. It's still deleting some other resources, might be behind the scene. So it'll clean up shortly. Now with that, this is Atul from team K21 Academy. As I said earlier, make sure that don't forget to take a screenshot and put it in WhatsApp group, and also so that it helps others. It tells me as well and inspire others as well to perform this lab. And yeah, I'll see you in another video.
So guys, if you also want to have a good job around Azure Cloud, then we have something really special for you. We have our absolutely free class on how to prepare for Azure Cloud jobs and certification. Under this interactive session, you'll be learning about top certification options in Azure Cloud, job opportunities, our 8-week roadmap to learn, get certified and get higher paying jobs. So if you want to register for the same, all you have to do is just log on to k21academy.com/AZ10402. You'll be seeing this kind of interface. Just click on book your free seats now. And after that, select event date, add your full name, your email address, your phone number, and click on yes, save my seats now. Moving ahead, you'll be seeing this kind of link on the extreme right. You just have to click it, save it, and I'll see you in the free class. Till then, take care and keep learning.